This is the Illuminate podcast, a Sandy Boy production. Each week on the Illuminate podcast, the hosts will bring you insightful conversations and stories of people who are illuminating their own lives through their business, work, community, family, and world. Hey everybody, welcome to the Illuminate podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Lindsey Hein, and I'm so excited to be back again this week. Today you're listening to episode 82, and I'm talking with Shayna Sangster. Shayna is the Director of Marketing for the Indiana Fever at Pacers Sports and Entertainment. She is also the owner of Just Ride Indy, which is getting a new name soon. You'll hear about that in the episode. She was a gymnast growing up and ran track and field in college. She was a 400 hurdler. And in this episode, we get to talk about how growing up as a serious athlete shaped her to who she is today. And we learn about her career path and why Just Ride Indy is so important to her. And a quick trigger warning, Shayna did grow up training at the gymnastics facility that Larry Nassar worked at. So we talk about that whole situation during this episode. Shayna did not experience sexual assault herself, but I do want to make sure you know ahead of time that this topic is covered in case that is a trigger for you. I really enjoyed my conversation with Shayna, and I hope you do too. If you do enjoy the podcast, please consider leaving us a quick rating and review, as that is helpful for potential new listeners finding us. All right, friends, enjoy my conversation with Shayna Sangster. All right, well, today on the podcast, we have Shayna Sangster on the show. Welcome to the show, Shayna.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
So you're an athlete, you're an entrepreneur, you're a marketing pro. Let's start with athlete. I know you grew up a gymnast turned track runner. So talk about those early days in gymnastics and how they kind of helped form you into the human and adult that you are today.
Yeah, so a lot of people think of me as a track and field athlete, but I really started off as a gymnast. My mom put me in gymnastics when I was about 2 years old, and I was a gymnast for 15 years. So I competed at Twist Stars, which is a gym in Michigan, in Lansing, Michigan, which has come under a little bit of controversy recently. But for me, in my experience personally, it was life-changing. For me, I was the gym I went to was very strict and very hardcore. And so we were training, 20 hours a week, maybe, if not more. And it would be for me, I'd wake up, go to school, go directly from school to practice, go after practice, go home around 8 or 9 o'clock, do my homework, eat my dinner, go to bed, and then repeat. So that work ethic that was drilled into me at that age is completely the only reason I can work the way I do now. And I think the gym I went to and the coaches that I had, although they were not perfect, and there are several things that have kind of come out about that gym and those coaches, the one thing I can at least take with me and appreciate is the work ethic that was just a part of my life.
Okay, I'm so curious about this as a parent because we've been really slow to kind of introduce sports and make sure that it's kind of just like super for fun for the kids right now. And I even struggle now. Our oldest does soccer like 3 days a week, and he complains about going to soccer. And, part of me is like, I understand you're tired. You've been at school all day. And then part of me is like, you should be grateful for this opportunity,
Yeah.
But my question is, as an adult now, how do you see that looking back, that so much of your childhood was spent training? What do you make of that now?
Yeah. I mean, when I was a kid, I struggled with it as well. And I mean, it was scary. The practices that we were doing, flipping on a beam when you're, at a really young age was terrifying for me. And the conditioning we did was on another level. I mean, pull-ups, climbing ropes, running the parking lot at, a fairly young age. So it was hard. And there were days where I did not want to go. I cried. I struggled with, like the fear of doing everything that I was being asked to
Mm-hmm.
do. And so I completely get that your son may not want to go to practice. That was me. But now today I am extremely, extremely grateful for those days and that time. And I'm a firm believer that everything in your life is meant to, that is something that you can use later on in life and something that you can learn from and build from. And those long days are the exact same long days that I have now. And it's just something that's now built into me. And I know since I've done it before, I can do it now. So although it was rough back then, today it is like a godsend. I wouldn't take it back for anything.
That's so good to hear. Yeah, I'm trying to strike this balance here of like, you got to teach your kids how to work hard, but then also let them just run around and be free and be kids and not have a super structured regimented routine all the time. So, yeah, there's this balance. But hearing you talk about how that has so positively affected who you are today, your career today, is really refreshing.
Yeah, yeah, I absolutely believe that. And I've had friends that, I did quit for 1 year. In eighth grade, I took a year off and I did volleyball and I tried basketball and I tried all these other sports and I really did enjoy them. I was like, oh, this is fun. Like there's
Mm.
other people. Like it's like a team sport more so. But at the end of the day, I ended up just deciding I wanted to go back to gymnastics and did that up through high school until I was moving on to college and decided to do track in college. But I will say, out of all the sports, I know a lot of people. This is probably an argument out there, but gymnastics to me is the hardest sport that there is. I don't
Mm.
think that there's anything harder, and that there's no track practice that can compare to the practices I had in gymnastics and the mental toughness that you have to have as a gymnast. So kudos to all the gymnasts out there.
Yeah, that fear component too that you were talking about, because you might be fearful of like how hard your track workout might feel and be, and can you
Yeah.
mentally like persevere through that. But I mean, on a very lighter level, I did gymnastics as a kid too, and I remember being
Yeah.
so scared to even just do like a back walkover on the beam.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It just has a completely different mental component to it, in terms of everything that you're doing. I mean, flipping on the beam to flipping off the bars to tumbling and vaulting. And although you're trained to do these things and your coaches know what they're doing and know you're prepared, it's still a mental feat to just get over and believe in yourself and believe that you can do it. So, for sure.
What did your parents think of that year that you decided to take off? Were they supportive?
Yeah, I think a little surprised and a little probably maybe a little annoyed just because it was like they had put a lot of time and effort and money. I mean, we
Oh,
traveled
yeah.
across the country. It was club gymnastics, so not with my high school team. It was a club sport. So we were traveling across the country, doing all these things, and then they probably knew I was capable of getting a scholarship. I was, state champion at every level and regional champion and doing all these things. And so when I wanted to quit, I'm sure it was set them back a little bit, took their breath away, but they were supportive. And my mom was just like, you can't sit around and do nothing. You have to, do some other sports and participate in something. So I tried volleyball and loved it. I went to one basketball practice and they say I jammed my finger and I said I didn't want to go back, which doesn't make sense to me, but because I was hurt all the time at gymnastics. But anyway, just my coach called me after about a year and said, "Are you ready to come back?" And I said, "I guess so. I guess I am." So I did. I went back.
What if they wouldn't have called?
I probably would not have gone back. I
Really?
don't know if I would have like taken that step on my own, especially in
Huh.
eighth grade at that
Yeah.
age. I just wasn't, fully thinking about it. And, gymnastics was a love hate. I loved the sport. I loved competing. The practices were rough and the fear was hard.
Okay, so you did mention that you competed at Twisters, which for those listening who might not know, Larry Nasser was the trainer. You were not a victim of sexual assault, but I'm curious, with everything that's happened in the news since then and seeing, these other young women tell their stories. Like, how does that sit with you today, and how does that make you feel?
Yeah, it's honestly mind-blowing. It's so hard to imagine what was going on while I was there. And I just have such compassion and for my teammates, some of my teammates and some of those other women that were affected by this. And I was a gymnast, like I mentioned, for 15 years, and Larry was there the entire 15 years I was there.
Wow.
And never once did I have an issue with him, or never once felt like, he was doing anything inappropriate with me. But obviously he was with several hundred other girls. And so it was just really shocking. And to also live in Indianapolis, where USA Gymnastics is and where Indy Star broke the story, was just also crazy to just see the people in the newspaper every day and on the news. And there's a real group of people that weren't victims, but were a part of that organization that still have to come to terms with what happened, and what happened to their teammates, and what happened with coaches and every layer that were affected. And so my heart goes out to everybody affected by this entire situation, because I've told people multiple times, like, I was a gymnast for 15 years. I saw Larry multiple times. I was teammates with these girls, practicing with them for 20 hours a week, and I had no idea. So, to assume that people knew I think is a little bit of a leap sometimes. And some people did know and didn't say anything, and that's something they're going to have to deal with. But, just to have been a part of it and been in that world for so long, and just be ignorant of what was going on, I just think people need to understand that not everyone knew. And if we did, then, maybe something would have happened sooner. So.
And since then, the head coach, John, went on to commit suicide. So having worked with a guy for your, entire childhood.
Yeah.
How does that sit with you?
Yeah, that one was a hard one as well. And shocking, just completely shocking. Again, he had a lot of charges against him, and nothing that I personally was affected by, or there's nothing that I saw that he did. But again, I'm not speaking for those people that said he did. I'm just speaking from my own experience. And it's just really sad. He had a wife that worked with him, was a coach as well, Catherine, who, my heart goes out to her to have to see her, her husband commit suicide. And then he has 3 kids that were a part of the gym, and one of them was a coach at the gym. And so my heart goes out to them and the family, and obviously the victims, because there's so many details and so many things are intertwined in this situation that it's really hard to understand it unless you were in it. And so I know a lot of people have opinions, and I know a lot of people have thoughts about what should have happened or what could have happened. But, at this point, I just have empathy and compassion, and, just hope that everyone else can have the same.
What do you think the way forward is, though, like to make sure that those kinds of things don't happen in the future?
That's such a good question.
It's a hard question, huh?
It's a hard one. And it's really, it's really accountability and holding and making sure that the systems are in place to protect those young girls. Mm-hmm. I mean, there were so many things that were happening at the time that seemed normal, mm-hmm. and still to me don't seem like a big deal. But when they came out in the news, it was like, okay, looking back on that now, and me being, 10, 15, mm-hmm. 20 years removed, I can understand why that was inappropriate, or why that shouldn't have happened. Or, there were different things in place. I think the biggest thing is just making sure that there's other people in the room, especially when it came to Larry and his situations, like having someone else in the room to make sure that gymnast is covered and that nothing is happening inappropriately. But there's so many levels and so many issues that I don't know if I could probably go on for days about things that they could do differently, but I don't have the right answer. And I think that's what USA Gymnastics is struggling to figure out and has to figure out on their own. So there's a lot of levels there. And I, again, just ask that people kind of have empathy and compassion as they figure that out.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, like having other people in the room. And now that it's talked about, and now that it's out in the open, not just like being in the room and sitting on your phone, like while,
Yeah.
people are being examined, like be in the room to actually like physically hold someone else accountable and like make sure that there
Yeah.
are another set of eyes on young girls being touched, because they do have to be examined and like looked at for physical therapy type purposes for sure.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I'm so interested that, you spent all this time in gymnastics and then you go on to run in college, 400-meter runner. Did you do the 800 too?
No, I did 400, but I also did the 400 hurdles was probably my main event, and then all
Okay.
the relays.
So I can see how a gymnast transitions well to like a shorter distance hurdler. Not that the 400 is the short
Yeah.
hurdle. I know the short hurdles are the 110, but it doesn't surprise me that like a really good gymnast could transition and be also good at that. But why did you decide to pursue that instead of gymnastics?
Yeah. So, I left gymnastics my senior year in high school, and it was a mixture of things. I think at that point I decided I wanted to run track in college. And so I just decided I wanted to enjoy my senior year. Again, I was practicing so much and competing so much. There wasn't much time for football games and pep rallies and different things. So, um, knowing I wanted to run track in college, I let gymnastics go. And really, I think that I just, I, I think it was a mix between the two. I really loved track. I loved the team environment of it, especially of the relays and those different events. And I think I had just done gymnastics for so long. I was just ready to try something else and do something else new. I had a lot of teammates that ran track. Pole vault actually is a really good transition from gymnastics to track because you have such awareness of
Mm.
where your body is in the air. So I had several teammates that were tracking or that were pole vaulters and actually went to be pole vaulters in college. Um, but for me, it just, I knew that's what I wanted to do, and it just stuck with me. And I found a great university, a great coach, and just decided that that was the path forward. So that's where I went.
Yeah, and you ended up being a co-captain. You have this like leadership thing about you. Where does that come from?
I really can't pinpoint where that came from. I think it just was a little bit natural for me. Um, I was a captain on my teams in high school, and then my sophomore year in college, my teammates voted me as one of the co-captains. And so, I think a lot of the stuff that from gymnastics transferred over, I would, kind of organize different things for the team, try and make sure, the throwers were talking to the sprinters and the jumpers were talking to the distance runners. And I think that just translated into, them voting me as captain just because I love a close knit team. I want everyone to feel involved and be a part of the team. And so that to me just was who I am and who I was at the time.
Okay, that just sparked a really interesting thought in my head. I recently
Yeah.
saw a tweet from one of the Hanson's coaches saying like
Uh-huh.
he sees it as the team's job, like the people on the team to create the culture and the
Yeah.
close knit part of the team, and that as a coach it wasn't his job. And I kind of read it thinking, isn't it a little bit of both? I'm curious how you feel about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I definitely think it is a little bit of both. I think first and foremost the seniors or the leaders on that team have to do their part because without like the team buy-in, like it doesn't matter how much the coach does, like they're not gonna get into it.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I do think it is heavily on those on the team to build that culture and that environment. But sometimes that coach has to come in and set the standard or bring those leaders together and say, hey, we have some young people on this team, or we have these people acting out. They're not, really listening to me. And so I need you to step in and speak up. I think this reminds me, I'm again, obviously from Lansing, Michigan. I'm a big Michigan State fan. Tom Izzo is like an idol
Mm.
in Michigan. So he leads that way with his team, and you can see his team kind of encourage the younger teammates and get into the circle and direct them in terms of where they're supposed to go and what they're supposed to be doing. And that's what you want in your team. You want leaders that are able to do that. But at the end of the day, everything drizzles down from the top. It comes from the top, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if the coach is at the top and he's setting the right culture in the environment, then the others will fall in line.
So why did you go with Western Michigan?
Well, I did some visits to several different schools, mostly in the MAC conference. And, I had a few friends that went to some of the other schools, and I just decided I wanted to go to a school on my own, and I didn't want to go to, a school where, I automatically had a friend there. I just kind of wanted something different. And I loved my coach, Coach Kelly Lycan. He was amazing. He also was really good at the 400. His runners always ran well in the 4x4. They always went to nationals, and that was my event at the time. And so I just thought, if this is my event and he's clearly very good in coaching these athletes, then that's where I want to be. And it was a really good experience for me. I loved being at Western and being in the MAC and running with my teammates, and several of which I still am friends with today. So it was good.
I'm curious what, if anything, you think it was that your parents did that helped you be so independent. I'm oftentimes relating this back to my own parenting, obviously, at this stage of my life. I'm thinking about sending my oldest to a summer camp in a couple years that's where he wouldn't know anybody. And the thought of get him having the courage to do that, he's the type of kid that I think would really struggle with that. But I really want to instill that independence in my kids. Is there anything you think that your parents did to instill that?
Man, that's a great question. I don't know if that is instilled or if that is just naturally for me, because my brother is different, completely different for me. I think he was very social. He had tons of friends, knew everybody. That was never really who I was per se. And so I think maybe a little bit in just terms of going back to the gymnastics and just I guess every kind of sport I've been in, even track, if you don't count the relays, was very individual and very, it was, you were out there performing on your own in your own lane or on the beam or on the floor, whatever. And so maybe that's just comes from that of just having to really rely on myself in those moments. So I think it's probably a little bit of just who I am, but also just in the experiences that I had growing up and then kind of reinforced through those.
Yeah, I asked a similar question about, another quality somebody had, and it was Liz Bohannon, and actually I put her episode out last week on the Illuminate podcast, and she was like, well, I think it's a fun question, but isn't it always a little bit of nature, a little bit of nurture? There's always a little mix of both, right?
Yeah, I would completely agree. And I just think, I just grew up, with an older brother. He's about 3 years older. And I had friends growing up, but most of them were gymnasts, obviously, because I was there all the time. Yeah. And I just think I was ready to just kind of be in my own group and set my own path and start something new. So that's just the way it worked out for me.
Yeah, it's kind of comforting too to hear that as a parent, because you want to shape and mold your kids to be successful and do what they love and whatever successful means, to them. Yeah. But there should be this sense of peace that we are who we are. So if a child is uncomfortable going to college where he doesn't know anybody, well, maybe that's okay that he doesn't do that or she doesn't do that. I like that.
Yeah. I think I got a visit. It came late. They offered me to go to, I think it was Cal State Northridge for a visit. And it came very late. So I had already done several visits and was ready to make a decision. And my mom was like, no, we need to just make a decision and move on. But had I actually gone out there, I probably would have gone to California because it just was something different, something new, never lived on the West Coast, would have been fun. So I think that was just me, just finding my own path.
Hey everybody, a quick break here. Since I'm crossing these episodes over, I'm also airing this over on All Have Another podcast. I wanted to share about one of the sponsors we have over on All Have Another, and that is Beam. Beam's mission is to empower people to push their limits and pursue their passions by improving their physical and mental wellness. They have an amazing hydration line as well as an amazing sleep supplement line. I don't know if they call it a sleep supplement line, but they have balance, performance, and recovery hydration mixes with a great blend of electrolytes. And then they also have a Dream Blend powder that has CBD in it, and it is my nightly routine now. It helps me get to sleep every night, and I really enjoy the ritual of it. It's a hot cup of water mixed with a little bit of their powder, and it has a hot chocolate flavor. Very delicious. And you guys can try those products out and save 15% when you go to beamtlc.com. Use the code Lindsey15, and that will save you 15% off your order. All right, and don't forget, this podcast is part of the Sandy Boy Productions podcast network, and we have a brand new show in the network. It's called The Urban Pharmacy, hosted by Lindsey Hein. It is all about holistic living, plant-based eating, and non-toxic living. Stacy's a wealth of knowledge. Her guests are a wealth of knowledge. And if you're into that kind of stuff, definitely go check it out. It's called The Urban Pharmacy. All right, enjoy the rest of my conversation with Shayna Sangster. Well, let's talk about life now. You've had a fun, I would say, from the outside looking in, an interesting career post-college. You worked for USA Track and Field for 6 years, and now you're with the Pacers and the Fever. You're specifically marketing for the Fever, correct?
Yes. Yep. Director of marketing for the Indiana Fever.
That's so cool. And I was looking at your LinkedIn too, and you were like, what was it before? Associate director, yeah, for marketing integration. And before that, I was on our corporate partnerships team on the activation side of things. Okay, let's talk about patience and career, but like having a goal for yourself and, you know, working your way to get where you want to be. What was your vision trajectory wise with the Pacers and the Fever?
Honestly, I knew I wanted to be in a marketing related role when I came over here. I was at USA Track and Field, as you mentioned, for about 6 years, and I had gone back while I was there to IUPUI and did through their MBA program with a focus in marketing and entrepreneurship. And when I graduated there, I knew I wanted to do marketing, and so I knew a person that worked at Pacers Sports and Entertainment. She was promoted and recommended me for her job, so went through the interview process and got the role. And it was in corporate partnerships on the activation side. So if I wasn't selling sponsorships, but once a sponsorship was sold, I would get the contract, I would see what was in it, and basically just be responsible for executing everything in there. So if a sponsor has signage, or if they have a timeout, or if they have a player appearance, I was the one kind of making sure those got done. And so I've never really had a full vision exactly of where I want to be, or, you know, a dream goal job. When I started in college at Western, I was actually biomed undergrad. My mom is a doctor. She's retired now, but she was a family physician. So I always kind of loved medicine and liked that piece. But I hit organic chemistry and decided that probably wasn't for me anymore. That was a rough class. And I switched completely to business. I was like, okay, I feel like I have a good leadership side of me. I feel like business would work. And then I went into business management and knew if I did business, I just didn't want to work somewhere boring. Business to me at the time was like sitting at a computer and like selling paper. I guess I'm thinking of The Office or something, but
Dunder Mifflin.
Exactly. I didn't want to work at Dunder Mifflin. So I knew I wanted to work in sports, and that was the only way I wanted to do business. And so that's what I pursued. And if I was going to do this, I was going to work in sports, and that was the only option. So that has worked out for me, fortunately. So it's been good so far.
And listen up, everybody. I have to just tell the story because when I think Lewis was turning 4 or 5, I can't remember. And my kids, obviously, we live in Indianapolis, so they love Boomer. We love the Pacers. And
Yeah.
well, other than last year, we've been going to like one game a year, 1 to 2 games a year with the big kids. Russell might be moved up this year. But I sent Shayna a message and I was like, what are the chances that we can get like an up close look at Boomer when we come to the game? So she was in her office working, came downstairs, met us, took us to downstairs to see Boomer, where then Lewis just totally got cold feet and freaked out. But it was super kind of you to do that.
Yeah, no problem. That's what we're here for, to, make people have a good experience, something they can remember and enjoy the game. So,
but I remember seeing you in the elevator, like still in your work clothes, and we must have gone on a weeknight or something, because you were definitely working, right? You were like working in your office.
Yeah, and I think it's funny because sometimes people say things like, well, what time do you guys get here on game days? Or like, they'll ask questions like, what do you guys do in the off season? And we're like, we work. We're here every day, regardless if there's a game or not. And, on game days, we get here at the same time. So 8:30 in the morning, 8:30, 9 a.m. and work till the game's over. So, so yeah, I'm usually here working either if I'm in my office or working the game, or if I'm lucky, then watching the game somewhere. But yeah, we're always here.
I just remember thinking, I feel like she works a lot.
I do. I think everyone here in sports probably does a little over their workload at times, but that's why we're here. We love the game and we love the experience and making sure people have a good time.
So, but there's more to it than that, though, because you mentioned when you went to IUPUI and got your MBA, you also had a focus on entrepreneurship, so marketing and entrepreneurship. Yeah. And now you own your own studio, Just Ride Indy. You guys are incorporating new, different types of exercise coming soon. So yeah. I am so curious, when you pursued entrepreneurship for that MBA, were you already thinking of something like this? How did Just Ride Indy come about?
Yeah, absolutely not. At the time, I really just took entrepreneurship because I was like, it was more in relation to strategy. They were kind of like, well, entrepreneurship is also kind of like a focus in strategy. And so I liked that. And I like strategy and I like kind of making those plans. So at the time, I was just more so interested in the strategy piece. I thought I would never own a business. And then I started instructing at Just Ride in 2016 when they opened. One of the managers, I knew her and she asked me if I would be interested. And I was like, yeah, I'd love to. And so started teaching there. And then after a couple of years, the owner, who lived in a different state, had a baby and she just didn't have time to manage it anymore, wasn't interested, and decided to sell it. And so I, having had taught there for a couple of years, was just interested in it and interested in the business side of things and interested in the direction it could take and where it could go. And so I decided to buy it and take it over. And I have had it ever since about 2018. So about 3 years now. And it's a lot, but on top of my full-time job, but it's definitely a journey, and it's something that I'm passionate about and excited to see where we can take it.
Was that scary? I wouldn't even know how to buy a business.
Yeah. I mean, it was terrifying. I mean, beyond terrifying. You would think having, an entrepreneurship degree and a master's and being in business, I would know everything, but you don't, they tell you the general overview of things, but you don't know what you don't know. And so there was a lot of things I didn't know, and it was very hard in the beginning. It's still pretty hard, but in the beginning, there's just stuff you don't know. And so you just kind of have to figure it out, read blogs, Google, find people that do know, and do what you can to figure it out. And so I know we talked about this in the very beginning, but the gymnastics piece and the fear piece of going to the gym every day and doing things that you didn't think you could do or you didn't know you could do is literally repeating itself in this part of my life with the entrepreneurship and the taking over of the studio. It's every day me doing things that I didn't think I could do, that I'm terrified to do. And it's literally a repeat of my younger self. And so I think, again, everything in your life prepares you for later on. So just pay attention and walk through whatever you're trying to get through, because it'll be useful when you need it.
That's so good. So I read your article in Be Well Indy. I mentioned to you before we got on the call that after I read that article last year, I wanted to book you for one of my shows, and I don't know why I drug my feet, just probably got spacey like I do.
Yeah.
But one of the things that the article touches on is the need for diversity in the wellness space. And so
Yeah.
I would love for you to kind of explore that a little bit with us and tell us what it means to you to be a Black woman who owns a business. And can you tell the story about the woman coming to your studio and saying, "This is Black girl magic"?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's very important to me. I think part of why it's so important, as I mentioned, my mom was a doctor, and she's retired now, but physician growing up. And so, health has always been a part of my life, and her teaching us about what to eat and, heart disease, and especially things that really affect the African American community. So, when I go to the grocery store, when I go to Kroger on 16th Street, and I see, minorities with pop and Twinkies or chips or whatever in their basket. And it breaks my heart to think that people don't even realize how good they could actually feel if they were just fueling their body with natural and organic products. And so, or just moving their body on a regular basis. And so I just think, in the minority community, there are so many issues with health. And so to see yourself reflected in someone else that is healthy and is moving and is working out is important. And it's also important because some of the things that we do, and like, for example, at Just Ride, we have theme rides. And so we'll do different artists and different, let's say it's, 2000s hip hop and R&B, where a ride has all of the music from that era. And so I think it's very important to have a diverse set of options so that people feel comfortable and they're coming in and finding music that they enjoy and they listen to growing up or that they listen to now. And to just provide a diverse audience and a diverse setting and a diverse set of options for them, so that they're interested in taking care of themselves. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about, is just being healthy and finding wellness. And complete wellness. And that's really what the focus is for me as we move forward with Just Ride. As you mentioned, we're adding a new modality. We're adding yoga to the studio. And so in the beginning, when I took it over, the most important thing for me was when I graduated college and I moved to Indianapolis, I loved going to all the studios. I loved going to a yoga studio. I went to boxing. I went to cycling. I went to do all the things. And I think that boutique studios service you in a different way than, let's say, the YMCA or some of the big box gyms do, because they're very unique and they're fit for that modality. And, the big box gyms really serve you in a generic way. And so my goal with, Just Ride is to expand our offerings, but keep that boutique feel. So when you walk into that spin studio, you are in a spin studio space. When you walk into the yoga room, you're in a yoga studio. And it allows you to diversify and change up your fitness routine and keep from getting bored with what you're doing, and also offer some change to your workout so your body doesn't get bored and plateau. So there's just so much in terms of diversity, not only in diversity of staff and diversity of our clientele, but also in diversity in your fitness routine, because without it, people tend to fall off and kind of lose interest. And so there's just so much there that I could talk about and I could go on forever. But in terms of the girl that came in, she was a young college student, and I think had been interning here over the summer, and then started coming to Just Ride and taking our classes. And I just remember seeing her post something about seeing me as the studio owner and as the instructor for that day. And she posted something on Instagram, with hashtag Black Girl Magic. And like, I think when people see someone that looks like them, they get excited because it opens up the possibilities for them, but it just feels good to just see someone succeed that looks like you. And so I think that's really what has become important and so such an honor for me to be a part of.
That's so cool. I'm curious, the people that you're talking about with the Twinkies and the pop in their grocery carts, which, hey, listen, I eat a Twinkie every so often. I'm sure Shayna does too.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
It's the lifestyle, right? It's like the everyday lifestyle. How do you target those people? Like, how do you market to them to say, hey, here's a studio that might be of interest to you? I mean, because I think that one of the biggest barriers to fitness is people don't realize how fun it can be.
Yeah. And that's what's been great about Spin, because people come in and they're like, I've had multiple people say I couldn't stick with anything until I found this, and it's fun and it's distracting so I can get through the workout and have a good time. And especially with cardio, not everybody's a runner. Like, I get it. I obviously am, but there's different ways to get the cardio in if you need it. And so that's the biggest thing, is that people you have to mix it up and find what works for you. And I think in terms of targeting those people, that is difficult. But what I love is that when I see someone come in and it's their first time and they are, they're nervous, they don't want to be judged because they can't quite keep up with everyone. Mm-hmm. That is not the environment we set. And that's what I tell them from jump when they walk in. I'm like, look, if you need to sit down and take a break, sit down and take a break. We do not yell at people here. We are not that type of studio or that type of gym. Come back and join us when you're ready. Take your water, whatever you need. Sit at the back if you want. You don't have to sit up front and be, in front of everyone. And we just have people that, feel welcomed and feel like it's okay if I'm new and I'm a beginner, because at some point everybody was. I remember my first spin class. It was after college. I was a Division I track and field athlete. I ran the 400. I can do a spin class. It's no big deal. I went and I almost died. Like, I was not ready for it. And so, everyone has had that moment, including myself. So just get past the fear of trying something new and feeling like you're going to be embarrassed or you're going to be, the slow one. No one cares. Just show up.
Okay, this might be a silly question, but you're a marketing person, so you know more than I do about marketing, but I'm like, can you put flyers in the 16th Street Kroger? You know what I mean? I'm just thinking, how do you get in front of them?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I definitely could do that. I don't know if that
so old school.
I know. I don't know if Kroger will allow me to, but what ends up happening is we get a lot of friends that come in. Like, someone will come in and they'll word of mouth will bring a friend with them. And I think that's where it starts, because someone comes in and they enjoy it and they bring some other people. In terms of the people at the supermarket, it's hard because it's inappropriate for me to go up to someone and say, hey, I see what's in your cart. I think we need to chat. Like, that's not okay. And, the fear is they just don't know. They just don't know. Right. And so, I could talk about that for a long time, about the food industry and how people, are told what they should be eating and how they should be eating. And, it's a really kind of messed up system, but I won't spend this entire podcast talking about that, but it's a larger scale issue than, just the one location on 16th Street or one grocery store or one person. So, I think we try and reach as many people as we can. And it's honestly, it has to be at a point when they're ready. Like, if they see the ad come across their Instagram feed 15 times, they may not click on it until, the 13th time, because at that point they're like, okay, I'm ready to actually take a step forward.
Yeah, it is such a bigger problem than that. I just listening to Lindsey Hein on our newest podcast on Sandy Boy Network, the Urban Pharmacy, and her and one of the doctors she just had on. He's a cardiovascular doctor, I think. But anyway, they were just talking about that, how it's so cheap to go to McDonald's. It's like the food that is oftentimes not the best for your health is it is just the cheapest and easiest thing to do. So it's no wonder there's such an issue. I mean, I know that's an obvious statement, but it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. I mean, I have been to those places and thought, man, this is inexpensive. Man, this is cheap. But, obviously it hits you up on the other end in terms of insurance costs and pills and different things that you have to take because of your high cholesterol or your diabetes or whatever that may be. So it's better to just spend the money up front with the food that you're putting in your body and feel better because of it.
Yeah, and I go to that Kroger sometimes too. It is a very diverse group of people at that Kroger, I would say more so than like almost any grocery store I've been to in the city. And then also they actually have a pretty diverse like variety of food, I would say.
They do. They have organic product. I go there all the time. That's the closest Kroger
to
me.
Main one,
so I go there all the time, and they have a wonderful selection of products. It just depends on what you're putting in your basket, and you can go anywhere. I mean, Meijer, Kroger, wherever you're at, you can they all sell crap. So you can get crap wherever you go, or you can walk the perimeter and get the fresh produce. So it's up to you.
Okay, so tell us about the Beyonce mural. And if you're moving buildings, do you move Beyonce?
I know. It's so sad. I'm like, if anyone out there knows how to cut a mural out of a wall and take it with you, please let me know. Please reach out. I need some info. But yeah, Beyonce is my number one. She's the love of my life. I absolutely adore her, and I've been to multiple concerts and just love her. So when I think it was Muck Rock was in town doing murals all over the place, she had actually come to the studio to take classes in the morning, and she'd come to our 6 a.m. class. She's a local, or not a local, I think she's from California, but she was doing some murals across the city. And so when she came to class, I was like, I'd love for you to do a mural in our space. And music is so important to spin in what we do that I was just like, for sure, musical artist. And if it's going to be a musical artist, it's probably going to be Beyonce. So she did that by hand. She held the phone in her hand looking at the photo, and then just did it with her right hand with the spray can. It was pretty incredible. She did it really quickly. And I love it. We haven't been in our actual studio space for classes since COVID happened. We've been either outside for classes or in a large warehouse space. So no one really gets to see it anymore but me. But it's honestly a full work of art.
That's crazy that someone is so talented that they can just look at a picture on their phone and spray paint Beyonce.
Yeah.
And do it well.
It's impressive. Very impressive. She's extremely talented.
So can you give us any more insight on details with the new studio? And I know you're adding yoga like we talked about, or names or anything.
Yeah. So we are moving to Ohio Street, 537 East Ohio, into a new space there. They're building it out now. And we are changing our name, which is the first time I'm mentioning this anywhere, to Rise House Fitness Studio. Because obviously you can't be called Just Ride if you are if you have more than just riding. So we are changing the name to Rise House. And this is honestly exciting for me because it's the first step in my vision to adding different modalities and adding different offerings and making sure people have this holistic approach to their health. And hopefully we will continue to add other things in the future. That's the goal.
How exciting.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it.
Is that nerve-wracking at all, doing that, like, in the midst of
terrifying.
COVID?
Oh, it's absolutely terrifying. Absolutely. There's a lot of reasons why I shouldn't be moving or I shouldn't be doing certain things. But, another part of me is my faith. And I'm a big believer in Christ and in God. And when he tells you to move in venues or move in life, in anything, you do it. And so I'm just prayerful and believing that this is the right step, and just trying to manage this business for him because I believe that he's gifted me with it. And so we have some phenomenal members. They're all very excited about the yoga piece, and it's something that I've been looking forward to for a while. And the new space gives us more space, literally, to space the bikes out and to have a big enough space to do yoga, so that we are, people feel comfortable and that we are being safe. And so it also has a garage door to it, which is my favorite part.
I love that.
So if we need a little bit more circulation, we just open up the garage door and have our classes that way. But it's going to be great. I'm really excited.
Okay. 2 things. our gym in our back of our house, we have it in our garage. And when we lift the
Yeah.
garage door up, it's just like, I don't know. It just feels, it
Yeah.
feels so fun. Like it's such a fun way to work out with the garage door up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just the sunshine, especially coming out of, the winter months where we're all a little depressed, it
Yes,
changes your life.
for sure. Okay. And the other piece, real quick, that as you were talking about your faith and like just taking this step, even though it feels scary, I was just listening to Bob Goff on Liz Bohannon's podcast.
Yeah.
And he was talking about, we're here to love, to serve, and to be available. And
Mm.
then another piece to the conversation, he says, like, if it's not flowing your hair back anymore, like, make a change, do something different. And I'm like, I feel like everything you just said about that spoke exactly into what I just heard him say on my run.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I love Bob Goff. I just finished reading one of his books. Um, Absolutely. I mean, to love, to serve, to be available. And
I love that.
that sums it up right there. To love those around you and treat your neighbor as yourself, to serve those around you and to be available to what God wants you to do and the way he wants you to move. I can completely lean into that.
And that's what you're doing, scary or not.
Yeah, that's the goal every day is just to listen and move. So do what I can.
What is something professionally or personally that you'd like to do, even though you're doing a lot right now, that you haven't done yet?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think for the studio, for professionally, I'd love to build the studio into the vision I see in my head, which is this space that offers not only multiple modalities, so something that is related to cardio, which is the spin, the mind, body, spirit, which is the yoga and strength training, which would be the other component, but also offers, is a space where we can host Bible study classes or we can host Financial Peace University because that speaks into the financial fitness of your life. Or that has like a cafe space where you can get, healthy foods after your classes. And so I just have such a vision for it that I just have to bring to life that God has given me. And so that's professionally what I really want to do is to build the studio into that space. And then personally, I would probably have to say, which this is kind of random, but my entire bucket list has been to swim with whales. And so I have a friend that is doing that every day and I like follow her Instagram and one day I'm going to fly out and meet her in, I don't even know what country she's in right now because she goes all over the place, but, and do that because that is definitely a goal that's got to be done in my lifetime.
Who's someone fun, motivating, or inspiring you'd like to have coffee, tea, or a cocktail with? Beyonce.
Ooh,
I know.
yeah, for sure. Beyonce. My top list of people that like, if I was having a dinner party, I invite would be Beyonce, Michelle Obama, and Oprah. Oprah Winfrey is like love Oprah. I used to tape her show in college on like my VCR and then watch it back when I had chance. But yeah, definitely one of those three. I can't narrow it down to one.
I always feel like so lame when people ask me this question and my answer is always Oprah because I'm like, I feel like everybody answers Oprah. Actually, by far the most, the highest, why can I not talk? The most answered person to this question. Is that how you would say that? Why can I not say this?
Most common answer?
Yeah, the most common answer is Michelle Obama. Hands down.
Really?
On
okay.
Yeah,
wow.
on I'll Have Another. It's definitely Michelle Obama. But I always say Oprah. And, I did that too. I remember leaving class early because I'd be like, okay, my class would get out at like 4:15. And I'd be like, I'm getting home at 4 because I want to watch Oprah because Jennifer Aniston's going to be on Oprah or whatever.
Yeah.
But
me too.
I also always listen to one Oprah interview before any live show I do.
Oh, wow.
I will, like, whether it's that morning or the day before, I always listen to at least one Oprah interview because it just gives me like, I don't know, it gives me a little bit of ease, I think. Not that I think that I am any match to Oprah, but just the way she has conversations with people and the ease that she does that. I think it like settles this like confidence in me.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and if you didn't watch the Meghan and Harry interview with Oprah, like that solidified to me that she is the GOAT of interviewing because she killed that one. But I love that. That to me feels like you're kind of want to see the greatest so that you can kind of be the greatest version of you. So
Yeah.
that's awesome.
I love that. I love how you said that. For sure. Okay. So what's the best, most recent book you've read?
I am currently reading Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. I haven't quite finished that one yet. But the last one I read was Caste by Isabel Wilkerson, which talks about the caste system here in the U.S. in comparison to the one in India and then the one from Nazi Germany. Incredibly good read, like extremely, so much information. Like it was very hard. I had to keep going back and rereading things because it was hard to absorb some of the stuff, but it was really, really good. And then our women's network at work just read Just Mercy, which is one of my favorite books of all time by Brian Stevenson. If you haven't read that one, I highly recommend it because I've read it 3 times now and it's probably my favorite book.
Totally forgot to touch on the women's network, which is one of my talking points, but it's so cool. Give us the tiniest glimpse of what the women's network is.
Yeah, so the Women's Network is for Pacer Sports and Entertainment, and that Pacer Sports and Entertainment includes obviously the Pacers, the Fever, the Mad Ants, which is our G League team, and then Pacers Gaming, which is our NBA 2K team, and then Bankers Life Fieldhouse, all the events that happen here. And so we have a women's network for all the women at the organization to come together and to, really develop themselves and provide a little bit of a family structure, or like people to talk to and lean on in difficult times, and just ways to uplift us within the organization and within sports. And so it's been really amazing to have these women and such a strong group of women within the organization. And, we've set the tone in different ways as far as giving women, or not giving them, but promoting them into leadership roles or hiring into leadership roles, with Kelly Crosskoff being the first GM on the NBA side. She's an associate GM over there. And then Mel Raines, who runs our entire facility here. She's one of the few women in the NBA that does that. And so it's been a really good experience for us to have these opportunities to talk and come together.
And the Pacers has a fairly high percentage of female employees compared to other programs. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, I believe so. I don't know for sure what the comparison is across the league, but we certainly have, a fair amount of women within our marketing team and within facilities and across the organization. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was comparable or if not higher than other teams.
And also, I remember when I was reading Just Mercy, I remember you like messaging me and being like, that's one of my favorite books of all times. It's so good.
Yes. It's so good. It's so good. If there's one thing that you get out of this interview, it's read Just Mercy.
Totally.
Or at least watch the movie.
For sure. I know I haven't watched the movie, but yeah, the book is so good. Okay, last question. What is your last message you'd like to leave with our audience today?
I think I heard a quote a while back, and I think it was from Will Smith. I don't know if he was quoting someone else, but he said, the best things in life are on the other side of fear. And I think that just is my life, because with gymnastics, that was such a part of my life, but such a fearful part of the things that I was doing every single day. And I think now translating into my studio and the business that I'm running, it's another part of my life. And so I just encourage people that are afraid or fearful of doing something. I wouldn't take that as a no to doing it. Obviously, you need to do your homework and make sure that you're prepared and that you're doing everything to make sure that you can succeed. But jump onto the other side of fear, because there's so many great things on that other side, and you'll find out more things about yourself that you're possible and capable of doing. So I just always like to encourage people to do that, because it's turned out so well for me.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. Yes, everybody think about all the times you've faced the fear and done the thing, and what good probably came out of it. That's so good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Shayna.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was fun.
Okay, friends, thanks for being here today on the Illuminate podcast. Thank you, Shayna, for sharing your story. You can find Shayna on Instagram. She is Shayna_Sangster. You can find her studio on Instagram, Just Ride Indy. You can find us on Instagram. We are the Illuminate Podcast over there. If you're interested in checking out Beam and their Dream Powder, which is their sleep blend, as well as their hydration line, which is also very good, go to beamtlc.com. Use the code Lindsey15 to save 15% off your order. All right, we're thankful for you. Thanks for being here. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time on the Illuminate Podcast.